Welcome in. It's Thursday morning. It's the Georgia Show. I'm Jake Roos. He's Rusty Mansell. We're with Dawgs HQ. And as always, the Georgia Show presented to you by our friends at American Pride Bank. Localized banking solutions for your small business, for your personal life. However you need your banking done, American Pride Bank there to help out along the way. Get with them. They have a number of different lines for checking, like I said, small business loans, et cetera, et cetera. Whatever you need for your banking needs, American Pride Bank has it covered. You can get with them at americanpride.bank or branches in Athens or Alpharetta. They've got a number of ways to get in contact. They are an equal opportunity lender and member FDIC. Rusty Mansell, it was that special time of the year yesterday where Georgia is forced to some degree to march the coordinators out and let them talk to the media. I know it's one of Kirby's favorite days.
Oh,
pretty generous of them, actually. They didn't just give you the offensive and defensive coordinator. You got Kirk Benedict, the special teams coordinator. You got Todd Hartley out there as well. So, I mean, it was they went a little above and beyond. Maybe is Kirby getting soft on us?
I mean, so Friday I do a radio interview in Atlanta. We do Kirby every fall camp, and we do them on location in Athens. I reach out to SI, and I'm sure the communication goes through Kirby, and they work it in. Kirby literally leaves a staff meeting, drives over to where we were, does an interview. But what shocked me, Jake, was they were like, "Hey, do you want a couple of players?" And I'm like, "Does Kirby know this? Like, is everybody gonna get in trouble?" And I love it. The media access, I think it's great training. They gave us KJ Bolden. They gave us Drew Bobo. So I thought it was great. And, we look at those, and they gave additional coaches. Again, I spoke at the Atlanta Touchdown Club a couple of weeks ago, and I had Todd Hartley and Glenn Schumann. They were there. I spoke, and then I was a moderator for those guys. And, I know those guys pretty well. And I think it's great that Georgia fans and T-Rob gets to talk. So I think it's great for those guys, especially you look at guys like Glenn Schumann and Todd Hartley. At some point, these guys are going to be head coaches,
right?
To go out there and to sit in front of that media. And I don't know if this is true, Jake, but we were, I think, at the Sugar Bowl last year at one of the media days, and somebody said, and I don't know if this is true, but the volume is there. Someone told me that other than the New York Yankees, Georgia football has more credentialed media members than just about anybody else that follow them day to day. Wow. And the other day, when I'm in Kirby's first press conference last Friday, I mean, this thing's 4 rows deep. You know what I mean? Like I'm hiding up the corner. Me and Dean Legge and Mike Griffith and all the old timers, we're up in the corner. We're in the nosebleeds. And
sure.
So it's interesting, and that's good that they trotted those guys out there. But Kirby, Kirby walked in with a little smile, going, "Y'all too, media. Oh yeah, y'all too. Y'all going too. Everybody's going today. Y'all put on a smile face and have fun." So they're right in the middle of camp mode, and that was probably interesting. Text when you got your one-time fall camp interview.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I think, you really kind of hit the nail on the head as to where my thought was with it, Rusty. And that's that, especially with a guy like Todd Hartley, go ahead, get him out there, put him in front of the media as often as you can. He's great at it, first off. Secondly, he's going to be doing a lot of it in his career. He's going to be, and one day, it probably won't be in Athens. He'll be heading up a program somewhere else because he's a super talented guy and just a great representative, man. Super smart, a lot of passion, a lot of energy. Got the fire that they talk about. So the FPE, Todd Hartley brings it every day, man.
I think I'm right. Listening to him talk, I think he was the first person in his family to go to college, I think. But I know he said he was number 2 in his class graduating at Jones County High School. And, he went to Georgia as a football manager. He went to Georgia, and he was just a football manager. And he's worked himself into one of the elite recruiters in America. His tight end room is unbelievable. So it's a great story. And I'm sure one day when he gets a head job, people are going to dig into that. Look at the path of Glenn Schumann and Todd Hartley. Neither one of them played college football. Both of them started as an off-the-field grunt. You know what I mean? Let's go get coffee for this guy. I mean, Glenn Schumann was in. Can you imagine the beating Glenn Schumann took as a freshman in Kirby Smart's room, try to make sure the board was right, the paperwork was right? I would love to listen to those stories. But it's a great story for both of those guys. I think Georgia's fortunate enough to have both of them. They're great recruiters. They just relate to people. They relate to players. I think they're straightforward, with people. And both of them's common theme when I talked to them that night was, if it's only about football, I mean, it's only about money, then this is not the place for you. You won't survive at Georgia. Like, you better want it. You better want to compete. You're going to get good offers here. Money's right. But if it's only about the highest bidder, then don't waste any one of our time, and you can go somewhere else.
I want to talk a little bit about more about each guy, but I do want to talk about Georgia's offensive coordinator, Mike Bobo, as well. Got a chance to get out there. And look, I'm sure that there are people out there already groaning at the mention of the name, but it is what it is, man. Look, Mike Bobo got up there and had some really interesting things to say, Rusty. And one of them that I think people latched onto, and I think that they're taking it a bit out of context, was he was like, I don't want people to conflate like fast start with touchdown, field goal, touchdown. He said, there's a part of this that's switching the field and getting field position and putting our defense in positions to, look, don't kid yourself. Mike Bobo wants to score on every single possession. That's not the takeaway to have here. But there's more to it than that. He's also realistic enough, I think, Rusty, to realize that that's not always going to be the case. And how can you still have a somewhat successful possession as opposed to going 3 and out very often?
I know for a fact they studied the run game. They studied starts, all those things, all those things about the way it went last year. Mike Bobo wants to run the football. I mean, at times Georgia fans are on him about running it too much. Now we're like, can we get a damn yard? You know what I mean? And, last year was just one of those deals, man. And I think they brought in some guys that gave them some extra, I think John Lilly's the guy that you really don't get enough talk about. John Lilly's been a part of some very successful run games. He's been in college. He's been in NFL. Now he's back to Georgia, kind of as an off the field guy, helping out Todd Hartley and some of those stuff. But he's been a part of some run game stuff at multiple places that's done well. And, I just think that you can't sugarcoat the bad starts last year. That was bad. That is what it is. If that doesn't change this year, it's going to be a really bad problem. Something Kirby Smart will have to,
I felt like he owned it. Even I felt like he said, look, I was probably too conservative at times. I mean, he said there were multiple things. And like you said, through that analysis, it felt like they really kind of stepped back and said, here were the issues that we ran into last year.
Well, the football nerd of me, too, is also you get a couple possessions to see how the defense is playing you. And you got to make adjustments there. So that, the second quarter stuff is what, if you really want to get nerdy in this thing, you go through the first quarter and you say, okay, this is how they're playing this set. This is how they're doing 3-by-1. They're rolling a box and all that kind of stuff. The second quarter is where you want to say, okay, what happened there, and why couldn't we make the adjustments quicker? Why couldn't we get quicker results? Because second half, they went out and just about won every game on all the big games in the second half. They exploded offensively. So obviously you discuss those things at halftime. How can you communicate those things a little bit quicker? And I'm sure that's some of the part of it too. And I don't think the offense is going to be a major problem. I thought it was a problem last year. I don't know if it was a major problem because they won the SEC championship and they outscored a lot of teams to win some games. But the first half is an issue. Being able to run the football is plain and simple in the SEC. If you can't run the football and stop the run, you're not going to get where Georgia wants to go. And that's the last game of the year, national championship game. That's the goal. Nothing's changed. But I think that Mike Bobo, listen, I've known this guy for 30 years. He's not a BSer now. I know he's not coming in there to make friends in the media room and all that kind of stuff. I watched him at Colorado State. I went out and spent some time with him at Colorado State 2 or 3 days. I watched him in meetings, and this guy is this dude is a football freaking fanatic. He lives, breathes, and eats it. And one of the biggest competitors you'll ever meet in your life. I don't know if I've ever met a more competitive human being anywhere in the world now. But him not being able to run the football last year at the University of Georgia did not sit well with anybody. And I'm confident in that. We'll see what they do. I think, they've got some guys, and this is what I've said. You got to stay healthy, and you got to have guys that can break tackles, man. I mean, you can scheme up everything, and sometimes you gotta be able to break at least one tackle and get 6 more yards. You know what I mean? That for me, I felt like last year the first guy was getting Georgia to the ground too much, and I think your true freshman is going to help him out a little bit there. I think Bo Walker. I'm not saying he's going to be the guy. I obviously think it goes through Nate Frazier. You want to see what Roger Robinson does if he stays healthy. But I think Bo Walker, man, he's low to the ground. He's strong. This guy, you saw in the spring game. He broke 2 tackles in the spring game. You know what he got? He got like 20-yard runs. And that's just something you didn't see last year. That's something you're kind of used to at Georgia.
Yeah, Bobo made big emphasis on the run game. Everything starts with the run game. That's the quote we got down here in the band. And look, I don't think anybody would kid themselves. And I spent most of this offseason, discussing with people who asked me about it, saying, yeah, of course, Georgia could have done better offensively. I'm not here to defend that. But there are very few teams, I think, in college football that expect to be down to their 4th or 5th back. And Georgia spent a lot of time in that position. They were down to Nate Frazier, a true freshman, a talented guy, a guy with all the upside in the world and ability.
Yep.
But he was your feature back. And so you were right. Yeah. I mean, that was not an ideal situation for anybody to have to scheme with. Oh, yeah, your offensive line not playing up to snuff either. That wasn't helping things. So it was kind of a conglomeration of all these problems. It all just sort of came to a head. And you see, they went out, they got a guy like Josh McCray. Now, it's interesting. They mentioned that he is recovering from an illness. We mentioned that earlier this week. But somebody on the board said, does this kind of open things up for Bo Walker a little bit? Get him a few more extra reps while the guy from Illinois, the transfer, is sidelined. I can't think it hurts his chances.
Georgia's one of those places where you don't want to get injured because the guy behind you is damn good.
Yep.
And then you bring a talented freshman in there. I mean, we can go to Jacob Eason and Jake Fromm. Jacob Eason won the job. Jacob Eason went through fall camp, and he won the job. He held off Jake Fromm. He was a starting quarterback. He rolls his ankle, and he never gets it back.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. And Georgia's one of those schools where, the guy behind you is fighting tooth, scratch, and nail to take those minutes from you. It happens. You have injuries. But, if I'm Josh McCray, I'm wanting to get back in there as quick as I can because, listen, there's Chauncey Bowens. I mean, there's a lot of guys in that room that's trying to get those carries. And the more touches that Bo Walker gets in fall camp, the more things I hear, I'm starting to lean more towards this guy's going to be, kind of a bigger impact earlier than I thought of running back. Now, I still think it goes through Nate Frazier. Who else is going to join him in there? Dwight Phillips. We made a note on the dog walk. Dwight Phillips look, he's not the biggest dude, but I'm telling you right now, that guy, I mean, Dwight Phillips is straight gas now. He gets a seam, he's gone. And already had a couple big runs the other day in full pads. So, don't forget about Dwight Phillips and some of the packages that Georgia will use with him.
Speaking of not forgetting, look, don't forget about sunheist.com. It's almost tailgate season. You're getting ready to get out. You're going to be at the games. You're going to be standing out in the heat. I promise you what's been going on this week here in North Georgia is not going to be how the weather feels in September. So those first home games, you better just buckle up, buddy, because it's about to stall you. I'm telling you, this is the worst fall. One of the worst falls we've had in a long time. Sunheist.com going to have you covered when the sun is out. All right. You can get a number of different styles, tons of customization, excellent customer service over there. And oh, yeah, you can save 20% with code DawgsHQ20. So get over, check out sunheist.com. They're a local Georgia business right up the road from Athens and Jefferson. A great product run by great people, great customer service. They got free returns. If you're wary about trying on some sunglasses or buying some sunglasses you hadn't tried on before, get them, check them out. If they're not for you, send them back. You have that ability. But with Sunheist, I don't think you're going to be sending them back. Sunheist.com, the place to go. Like I said, get ready for tailgate season, baby. It's here. And Friday night scrimmages, man. I know that they're already popping off too.
There's a bunch tonight. There's 2 NFL games tonight, and there's about 20 high school scrimmages. We've made it, to me. Like, yeah, I know we've made it. We got game. I even looked at the NFL schedule. I looked at the NFL schedule. We got 2 games tonight, 1 tomorrow, 3 or 4 Saturday, 5 or 6 Sunday. So we've made it. to me.
Absolutely. Rusty met with a couple of other coordinators. We mentioned Mike Bobo, obviously. Kurt Benedict was one that was really interesting to me. I got Schumann down here, and we'll get to him in a second. But Benedict asked about KJ Bolden, potentially working at that gunner spot. And people said, "Oh, are you concerned about putting him out there?" He said, "Absolutely not. That's what we do here. We put those guys in those positions, guys who we know can get it done." I thought that was a pretty – I won't say bold, because it makes sense to put a guy like that out there, but it was a pretty full-chested endorsement of, hey, man, we're not holding anybody back if they think that they can play the role we need them to.
Yeah, and I think that Kirby Smart has made the comment before, you can lose a game on special teams. Obviously, they know that. So why would you put somebody out there knowing that you've got somebody better? And, I remember, like, Samir White used to cover kickoffs, and everybody would be freaking out. He's hurt and all this stuff. And, and you remember Trayvon Walker was covering kickoffs.
Oh, yeah.
The dude was 270. Oh, by the way, he was the first number 1 overall pick. So, that's not going to change. It's who helps you the most. And you got some guys that you take the Cole Spears and some of those guys that are, that may not get into the rotation as far as everyday wide receiver, every package, but they do help you on special teams. You got to have those type of players, but you can't trot out, 10 guys that you just think you need to get some experience, because you'll get your ass beat. We got a new member here. We got
Leslie Waters. Thanks for chiming in, Leslie. Appreciate that. Appreciate you. Awesome. Our buddy Josh Armstrong in here. He's got plenty of
rolling, baby.
Yeah, he said, "Here, Dwight's up to 190." That'd be real nice, man. That's a good weight for him.
Squatty.
No, and a lot was made, like you said, special teams. I thought it was cool that they kind of, essentially paid homage to the fact that this is a third of the game by bringing Benedict to the front and saying, hey, this guy plays a major role for us as well. A lot of discussion, though, Rusty, about transfers, and that's what I wanted to get with you on Glenn Schumann's comments. One of the things that we didn't mention with Mike Bobo, he mentioned on Noah Thomas that he was light years ahead of where he was in the spring. I thought that was a very telling comment. Schumann, though, talking about Elo Medozi, an excellent fit for the program, says it's like he's been here forever, essentially, fits in perfectly with the mentality and the approach, but still plenty to learn for this guy. I'm curious, Rusty, what's kind of been your feeling on Medozi? What are you hearing on that fit? Georgia prioritized him, I think, as highly as anybody in the transfer portal, went out and just made it happen and said, look, we're not going to lose this guy. Your early impressions of Medozi, how he fits in here. Like I said, Schumann says he's got a lot to learn, but is it really that far off?
We're all going to see him play. We're all going to see him play, against Marshall and early on. But I think the one telling thing here is that Georgia only took one edge guy so far in his class, and that's what we anticipate. They took Kamari Brooks. Well, why do you only take Kamari Brooks? Because you got Medozi for 2 more years. This is a guy that you probably feel confident in, and you're like, you know what? There were some other edge guys they were in on, and there were some other highly rated guys, but they probably saw enough to go, you know what? We're staying with what we've got. We got a great class. We got great guys in there, Chase Linton and all those guys as well with that group, and they look good in person, man, when you see those guys. And but to me, with Medozi, that was kind of the first thing without me seeing him play a game, without me seeing him play an SEC game. That was the thing that stood out to me. And also, Jake, when you look at this, I'll say this. I've said it, and maybe he won't get mad at me, but I talked to Josh Brooks Friday not off the record, just to the side of the interview. And I don't think you have a problem with me telling this. He said he met with every freshman, every single one of them, and went over some of the things at Georgia and what you're kind of expected there. And he wanted to kind of feel them out. Then he met with every single transfer. And with all the transfers, he set them in a room together, and he said, what's different about what so far? What have you seen? Everybody was like, oh, my God, like, never seen anything like this. Pace of practice, intensity of practice, the amount of reps. Obviously, you get used to Kirby being a little vocal there. And I think when you look at Medozi, you think about the discipline background he's coming from West Point. Every minute of every day is accounted for. Right. There's no hiccups. You don't miss a class at West Point, go, damn, I slept in. You know what I mean? Yeah. You don't get the Rusty Mansell sleep-in factor on Friday morning in college. Your butt is up at 6, and every second's accounted for. So I don't think he had that big of an adjustment as far now the pace of practice, the size of player he's in front of. How's he going to react that way? But I think everything else, what they like about him was the off the field. I think he was an easy plug and play. And, from my understanding, like, this is a grown man. Like, this dude's here to play football at Georgia, to get developed, to go to the NFL. And that was a reason why he left one of the best, educational opportunities in the world at West Point to come to Athens and to play football at Georgia.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, they prioritize this guy heavily. And we've heard, look, there's a lot of transfers working on that side of the ball for Glenn Schumann. Travaris Robinson was a guy who got to get up and talk. He's running quite a group of transfers back there in that safety room. So, these guys kind of all have their, various challenges, I would say. I think that's probably the way to say it. How they will take to this, I don't know, Rusty. How are you feeling about this safety spot? Because that's where this glut of transfers came in. But you got Ja'Cory Thomas there, and a guy that they mentioned yesterday, and I hadn't thought about in a while, was Kyron Jones.
Kyron Jones, another guy, but I don't want to sound the alarm because I'm not panicked there, but you also have to look in reality. You lost an NFL first round player in Malachi Starks. And you replace him with a guy that's never started. He's been in the program. He's waited his turn. So right now it's Ja'Cory Thomas. That's the guy. But you also bring in three. You also bring in three transfers at one position, basically, and you're gonna split those guys up a little bit. But that worries you a little bit there. Like, okay, what's going on back there? And can this guy, where are we at with that? I will say this. I know that privately, Georgia was a little concerned with Tyke Smith going into when he started. And Tyke Smith played himself into the confidence of his staff and wound up being, because he wasn't the fastest guy, but he wound up being a very instinctive and a very good football player. So can Ja'Cory Thomas, obviously he's not Malachi Starks. He's not going to be a first rounder.
Sure.
But can he be a really good player at Georgia? And we're going to be surrounded by some guys. You're going to have KJ Bolden, who's going to be, I think, an NFL first rounder in 2 years. You're going to have a guy beside you, very experienced. So, you don't want to sugarcoat that. There are some questions there. I'm not ready to panic yet, but I am really curious on how that role fills out and what kind of production they get out of that spot this year.
Yeah, it's one of those, it feels like the old quarterback adage, right? If you got three quarterbacks, you got none. Yeah. Yep. So, look, I kind of gave away the next thing that's coming. I accidentally shared the screen early, but look, it's not a bad deal. All right. Rhoback.com has partnered with Dawgs HQ. All right. We've got a chance to get with them. They released their Georgia collection, and we've got a killer discount, 20% off. Dawgs HQ, Dawgs 20, DAWGS 20, gets you 20% off over at Rhoback.com. Rusty, the Georgia Game Day shirt right here is smooth as it comes. And
I've got one of those from a couple of years ago. It's got the little Georgia State, the white. But I tell you this about Rhoback and just my experience. If you order your size, it's gonna fit. It's not gonna be a little snug or whatever you think. It's fit to order, and they're great shirts. The collars stay up, but they're just great shirts, man. And I say this without, I would have said this before somebody asked me, but listen, they're a little bit pricey. I get it, but it's worth it. The value there is worth it, and the product is great, and they fit. Sometimes I'm a bigger dude now. Sometimes that 2X it can be a little snug, or it can be like Panama Jack tank top. You don't want that on me walking around. You know what I mean? So, but I will stand behind Rhoback as a product, and it's a great product. Good University of Georgia line there, as you see.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of great styles out there that they just dropped. Some really, really good looking stuff here. This is the Sanford Stadium, which is super cool. You got the G all over it, the hoodie looking super nice, the quarter zip, man. You gotta be looking like $1 million walking around in that thing. So listen, get over, amazing product. You don't know anybody who has Rhoback that's not talking about them, right? They love this stuff. A tremendous product, and get over Dawgs 20 for that discount. Really excited to be partnered with them for that. Rusty, wrap things up here. It feels like kind of a weird time because it's like early August And we're
It's like
just
we already had signing day. It's like we had signing day.
like what's next, man?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the question that I have for you, Rusty Mansell. What is next for Georgia when it comes to the recruiting front? I guess one of the big things we've got coming up here is this LaDainian Guyton decision, whatever that may be. I don't think either of us feels like it's going to be Georgia, so you don't have to worry about that.
I can make your afternoon a lot easier. That's shocked about Georgia. Now I will say, that one's not over, and and this is, listen, it is what it is. Okay, we're in a different world of college football. That kid has been to Texas Tech for 48 hours in his life. And they're going to get him most likely this afternoon, and it is what it is. Georgia's recruited him a while, and just like they've recruited KJ Bolden for a long time, and guys they got, some guys they didn't. This is a very early commitment. This is the #1 high school football player in America, according to most services, and he's an edge guy from Savannah at Benedictine High School. And here's what I'll say: he's going to take visits. He's going to be back on Georgia's campus. He's going to be back probably at Miami. He's going to be back at Alabama. He's going to take visits. So we'll see how this thing plays out. But I will say this, that Texas Tech knows what they had to do. And so far, they're about to do it. Now, it's a long way to go there. And the rumor on this is like they're trying to get him to reclass. Everybody I've talked to in the last 24 hours says almost 0% chance. He's at a private school. He came from a private school to a private school, and it just doesn't happen there. He ran out of time. But so if you want to do that, like Brock Vandergrift did it from a private school, well, Brock Vandergrift did it in the 9th grade. He started in the 9th grade with that path, knowing he was going to be a mid-year. I remember Jamari Salyer and Andrew Thomas. Those guys weren't mid-years. You know what I mean? They went to Pace Academy. You can't do it from a private school. So I remember Andrew Thomas getting there in June, like the second week of June. You're like, there's no way this guy's playing. Well, he started the very first game, and he started every game at Georgia. So, it's one of those deals, and we'll see. But I don't anticipate it to be Georgia right now. But also caution people here. There's a lot of Georgia people around him. You got Warren Brinson. You got Nolan Smith. You got Elijah Griffin. All those guys know him well, and there will be. And those are some true dogs, really. There'll be a lot of people in his ear down there, but I'm confident in this. He will be back on Georgia's campus this fall. I would say a couple times. Yeah,
no doubt. Look, like you said, it is what it is. I don't really know how else to say what it is other than that. But looking at this 26 class, Rusty, I mean, what does Georgia do from here? Where do we go? What do we do? I mean, it's like from my perspective, if I'm looking at it, I think that the need is probably on another tackle. That's probably a place that I would be looking as well. And then if you wanted to go out, given some of the uncertainty around the Chase Calicut situation, I would say maybe you try to go find a corner. But I would imagine both of those guys, they're going to kind of take the approach of let's see who emerges through the senior year. Georgia's taken that approach under Kirby Smart a great deal. They've sort of sat back and said, all right, let's get almost maybe even through that first signing period and wait till the second signing period. You saw that with guys like Andrew Paul, right? Brett Seither was another guy like that.
Lad McConkey.
Yeah, right. Lad McConkey, sure. So, they're not necessarily scared of that, but it feels like we're kind of in a let's evaluate the high school mode at the moment. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, I mean, and you want to hold on to your class. That's number one.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's number one.
The one thing you're working on right now is holding your class. I do think another tackle is a guy. And here's the thing, man. I mean, Georgia's not going to just offer somebody to be offering them. They can, if they feel like, okay, we've got X amount of dollars for a tackle in this spot, and that sounds funny to say. If you got X amount of money left in your rev share for a tackle, this is the money that you didn't use, then you can take that money using the portal. You go get a player, and that's what everybody does. You know what I mean? So they got a lot of flexibility. Number one, I think the most important thing is to hold on to your class, and I think Georgia's going to do a good job there. Justice Fitzpatrick made some news this week saying he was going to visit, Miami and Texas, two schools that, Lord of mercy, that's who you don't want to be visiting, but you kind of feel like the foundation of that family, the relationship with Minka Fitzpatrick, T-Rob and Glenn Schumann is a big deal there. So, just hold on to your class. add a few pieces, and this is exactly what you want for Georgia. Did they win them all? They didn't, but they have a hell of a class. They went out and got their quarterback, of the future, a guy that they went hard on and beat Oregon head-to-head at the end. And Mike Bobo got this kid committed twice. And Jared Curtis, you go out and get Caden Prothro, who he takes that official visit to Texas, and I'm very certain that Texas offered a substantial amount more than Georgia. But this kid said, I'm going to Georgia. And he verbally committed to Georgia. So there's all kind of little wins there. You hold on to your class, you add a couple pieces. I think defensive line, is where you probably want to add another big body. Obviously, Seven Cloud's got a few questions. Is he going to be at Georgia or not? That's going to be something that will be determined, I think, in December. Not right now. And I know people want answers to that. There's not an answer. He's got some stuff he's trying to work out on his end. And Chase Callicut's a kid that it doesn't sound good. But I talked to somebody on Friday, and they're like, look, that may not be completely over here. So, again, that's judicial stuff that will play out, and whatever happened in Houston with that deal, he'll have his time to answer that, and those charges move forward. So they've got some guys still on the board. They got some guys that are still recruiting. 26, to me, Jake, you're almost in like fifth gear.
Yeah,
and you're trying to get home. You know what I mean? You're about 2 hours from home. You make that trip from Florida, and you're about 2 hours. Just let me get home. Nothing happened. Let's pull the driveway and let's put a bow on this trip. To me, that's where 26 is. Now, 27, what you want to start doing now, Jake, the thing is who gets on campus, who gets new offers. And another thing, too, does Georgia get committed elsewhere 2026 guys on campus? Well, that happens. Sure. I always anticipate that. So that's what you watch, those little things there. But as far as recruiting, I love that the month of August is dead, because that allows those kids to focus on their high school. And then it focuses on Georgia. I tell you what I would do, one last thing on that subject. If I was in charge, what I would do is I would let prospects come on campus on Saturdays. You can watch scrimmages, but you can only be there from 9 to 4. It's not overnight. It's not all this craziness. If you want to come watch Alabama scrimmage, you want to come watch Georgia scrimmage, you want to come watch Tennessee scrimmage, you can come on these Saturdays. It's no overnight. Not going to be a recruiting mess. You and your family can come watch. I think everybody be okay with that, just so they can come watch somebody practice.
My big one too, if I were in charge, I would say the early signing period is August. If you want to go ahead and get it done before you're
August 1st. August 1st. You know what that eliminates? The BS.
Yeah, right. Exactly. On both sides.
On both sides. Listen, that really protects the player. If you're in this for the player, and somebody's offering you, and the other side of the school is like, well, what if we sign it? The high schools also get a little concerned too. With my kid signs, how hard is he going to play in the fall? I've heard all those. I think the option, if you want to sign August 1st, you kind of know where you are. You know what I mean? But the panic side of it is if you have a Caden Prothro committed and he don't sign on August 1st, and then everybody gets into panic mode. So there's all kind of questions. But I've always thought I would not mind. There's a lot of arguments, but I wouldn't mind in August the 1st, and you come back December 1st, because 85% of these kids are sticking. You know what I mean? And that would eliminate some of the worries from everybody. Allow that kid to enjoy his senior season. To me,
that's my thought. Is it's just about it makes it easier on the kid, man. There's so many guys that are done. I mean, and they want to be done, and they're like, stop calling me, stop coming to visit my games on Friday night, stop putting a microphone in my face. Like, it's over, And to me, I always thought that they should have the option. That's just me. Guys, look. A lot more to get to. We got got some more pads coming on this weekend on Saturday. So definitely come over to Dawgs HQ, see what we hear on that. We'll have some notes for you. I promise you on that.
First two scrimmages are the ones.
Yeah, absolutely. All the recruiting updates, we got you covered there. Look, if it's happening in red and black, we talk about it on Dawgs HQ. So get over, come hang out on the dog walk with us. We'll be back with you on Sunday with another edition of the Georgia Show. We appreciate you tuning in on your Thursday. We'll catch you soon.
Thanks.